Hi everyone, this is Eric Skoglund from Olathe Northwest High School, and I'm going to walk you today through the process of registering for the State Speech Championships on tabroom.com. So when you first come to Tabroom, if you've never used the site for anything before, your first step is going to be to create an account. That's accomplished by coming up along the top here where you can see my login information, and you'll have an opportunity to create an account there. Once you've created and verified an account, logging into it will take you back to this home screen potentially, and we can access our profile by clicking on our email address. Now it's going to currently show me a little bit of judging that I'm doing, but what I want us to focus on is the right side here. If you already have a school created, then you can skip this step, but if you've never created your school in Tabroom, your first trip is going to be down the bottom of the right-hand side to create a new school or team. When I click on that button, it's going to allow me to put in the name of the school, choose that I am a high school, put in the rest of your information. I'm going to leave this blank because I'm just making a test school for the time being. You can give some of this other information to make sure that later on some future coach can still find you and link to the same school that you are. And then you would just go ahead and save the school info. And then what will happen is, back on our profile screen, you'll then see that school listed under the institutions that you work for. I'm using a test school today so that way I don't expose any of my students' personal information in this process, but you can see I also have ownership of Olathe Northwest High School, which is what I'd be using to register for my classification state championship. So, if you've never used Tabroom before, or if it's been a while, the next step you probably need to do is to add your competitors to your school's roster. We do that by clicking on our school on the institutions. We're going to ignore this piece for now, and then I'm going to go to competitors. You may have no competitors here, or you may have an outdated list of competitors. To add new students, you simply come up here and choose Add a New Student. There is also an option to just create a spreadsheet and import it if you have a large number of students you'd like to input, but for here I'm just going to use the Add a New Student button. The most important pieces here are the first and last names. And then I do think it's important to have a graduation year because that tells Tabroom when to have the student drop off of your roster. Later on, we might want our students to create Tabroom accounts, but I'm not worried about that right now. I don't need to worry about any of the other flagging that's on this page unless I want to. And then when I hit Save Student Info, it'll immediately let me add additional students to the roster. So I'm going to go through and add a couple students so that we have something to work with in my test school roster here. And once I'm done, if I come back to my competitors roster, then I'll see those students that I added all now listed as students that I have available to me. Now I'm going to go back to actually register for the tournament. So if you already had your school set up and you already had students on your roster, here's the next place we're going to go. From our schools page again, now I'm going to look at the tournaments tab, and that's the first one that comes up if you do just click on your school. You may see some links up above. I'll show you what this looks like on my school's page, where I have existing tournaments that I'm registered for. I have NSDA connections, and then further down it shows me other tournaments that I could choose to register for that are open to me. From my Kansas test school, I don't have any of that other stuff because I don't have anything that I've registered for yet. So I can just see all of the Kansas tournaments that are open to me. And I have opened up a bit early, just for the purpose of this video, the 2A classification. So I'm going to click on Register, which is this little green button over here. And it gives me a little splash screen to make sure I know, hey, this is only for 2A schools. If you've clicked on the wrong one, back off and try a different one. So, on this first screen, you can see the opportunity to give tournament adult contact information. That's most likely going to be you. And there's also a file upload screen. That's because here we have a school entry form that is the KSHSAA school registration. You will need to download this form, fill it out, and upload it using this link here. This school registration form replaces the part on the KSHSAA registration where you used to indicate which tournaments your students used to qualify and which tournaments your judges had judged at during the regular season. That now all is happening in this single PDF. You fill it out, upload it here. To actually enter for the events, there's two different options that you have. You can enter by entry or you can enter by competitor name. If I go by entry, it will ask me to choose here on the right side whatever event I want to add to. So let's say I have an entry in duet acting. It knows duet acting is a two-person event, so I can add 2 students to my duet. It will then ask for the title and author. Those will show up on the ballots that the tournament prints on the tournament day, and they will also be used as part of the source verification. But if we don't have it right at this precise moment, we can still proceed for the time being by just leaving a space in those 2 cells. We will need to come back and make sure that gets filled in later, but for the purpose of this illustration, we're just going to leave that for the time being. I can continue adding this way. I could add an entry to extemporaneous speech. Notice it says I only want 1 person here. And I can add that entry as well. I can also register for the tournament by competitor names. So you can see, since I used the entries field, it already shows me Shirley and Britt as registrations here. But then I can add registrations for a student, and I can add all of their events all at once. So let's say Jeff here is going to do an impromptu speaking, and he's going to do an oration. And again, it gives me the opportunity to put in a title for the oration. And again, that will show on the ballots. And if I click this little back arrow, then I can see now that I have that third competitor. For judges, you may not have any judges on your roster at this point, or the judges that you need might not be on your roster. So the first thing we need to do is we need to make sure that any judge we're going to use is added to our judge roster. They might have a Tabroom account, and then that's easy. You can just use their Tabroom email. Or I can come down here, and again, the first and last name is the most important piece of this. And I can add a couple here. And then if I go back to judges, I'm not sure what happened to the first one there, but I'll add him again. Now, by adding judges, it's taken me away from that tournament registration. So I'm going to need to find my way back to it. So I'm going to go back to my institution page. I see now I have an active entry at the 2A State Speech and Drama Championship. So I'm going to click that blue button to get back into it. And now on the judges screen, I have a drop down that I didn't have before, which is to add a judge. So I can add however many judges I need. It will default to having these judges available during all rounds. If you are splitting your judge obligation in a way such that some judges might not be here for all rounds, we just click on there where it says all rounds, and it will give me some shifts where I can remove that judge from different rounds. So perhaps Benjamin is not available for semifinals and finals. I can come back then, and it will show me that I've made that change. So the entries or competitors and then the judges tab are going to be where you will want to spend the most of your time getting your registration complete. Once you've done that, you should be able to see everything that you've put in. And then you've successfully registered for the tournament.